So you mean to tell me the timekeepers do the same thing all day, every day, and never eat?
If I didn't know better, I'd say he was a robot.
What is up, Loki fans? Welcome back to the channel, and oh my goodness, so much to talk about in that episode. We're going to talk about episode 5 of Loki today. Spoiler-filled video. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, and let's get started with what looks to be the barrier between our heroes and the big bad, and that is Alioth. Now, when the name was first spoken, I was just amazed because there's so much behind Alioth in the comic books and so much that tells us possibly where they're going in that 6th episode and who they could possibly face up against. So, who is Alioth? The first being that broke free from the constraints of time. His empire is larger than that of, and it's so funny that this is mentioned, Kang himself. And again, you kind of have a 1-2 punch here in the comic books. It's because of Alioth that Kang never attempts to expand his empire. Alioth in this show is acting a bit differently than in the comics. This time around, Alioth is the barrier, whereas in the comic book specific storylines, Kang created a barrier. All of that being said, Austin, where are you going with this? I am almost fully convinced that Kang is going to be introduced in episode 6. Now, is this a Mephisto theory ongoing where our hopes are going to die in the next episode? Very possibly, and if Kang is not introduced, then sure, maybe this is the step below Kang. We still don't really know what role Miss Minutes is playing in this show. I feel like there's going to be something revealed with her character, but all signs are really pointing toward Kang. It all started last week when we realized the timekeepers were robots. Who's controlling those robots? I don't think it was Alioth. I think Alioth is the barrier, and now that Alioth is gone and the portal is kind of opening up, we see this shot here. What is that, Austin? Well, we're just going to have to find out, but it's looking like some things are about to be introduced that are going to blow our minds. Now, Alioth is a trans-temporal entity existing across all divergent timelines as this huge cloud destroying everything it touches. It kind of reminded me of what Galactus was, I mean, not comic book accurate, obviously, was in the Fantastic Four sequel. It also kind of looked like the villain off of Green Lantern. But thankfully, this wasn't the main villain. This was just a barrier preventing our Lokis from getting through. Now, what all led up to this event? Well, before we get into that, let's point out a couple of the crazy Easter eggs that we saw in this episode, at least the ones that I noticed. How about Throg, a.k.a. the frog version of Thor? You guys are probably thinking, why is that relevant? Well, it's a very important character in the comics, and it was kind of this ongoing gag for quite a while. I just cannot believe that they actually referenced something that specific. But more importantly, bringing memes to life, we got Thanos Copter. All right, we've been seeing the Thanos Copter meme for a long time, and the fact that they were aware enough to put the Thanos Copter in this world that we're in this episode is incredible. And what is this world? Well, essentially, it's the void between time and space, and it's where all of our Lokis, once they get, well, we thought they all died. We thought Mobius died. We thought Loki died, until that post-credits scene, which kind of opened up all of these doors. Well, they're not dead. They're sent to this place in space, and it looked like there were a lot of Lokis there. One that looked just like our character, all of the others, from Boastful Loki to Kid Loki to Crocodile Loki, and I loved every time something would happen, we would cut back to that face, and it would be the exact same face, because, you know, it's just a reptile, but it was hilarious nonetheless, and the little fight that they get into, the skirmish, the scuffle, but my favorite was, of course, older Loki, that describes a couple of things that are very important, and some things that I think point us in a direction that our Loki could go in. One of those things in particular was what happened between that version of Thanos, and instead of dying at that moment, Richard E. Grant's character projected himself to die and escaped, and then kind of went lone wolf after that until he wanted to see if Thor actually missed him or not. So convincing everyone else that he died, but actually being off on his own. And I have a feeling that our Loki, if he somehow does make it back to our version of the timeline, or if he disappears forever, we don't know what's going to happen in the next episode, could kind of live that more secluded life. And they're making fun of it all throughout the series. Glorious purpose. And Richard E. Grant just kind of scoffs at that at a point. He's like, all Lokis say that. And he just looks like this withered character that understands kind of what our Loki is starting to understand, that there is not much meaning in what they have been attempting to do for all of this time. Now, let's flash back to the beginning of this episode when Sylvie, for some reason, just thought she could trust old Jerkface. That's what I like to call. I love her, by the way, in real life. But this character, you just can't trust her. And she trusts her. And she even says, I started to believe you. And I have a feeling we're staring down a big old fight between her and Mobius in the final episode. Because what did Mobius say? He said, I'm going to burn it down. I'm going to go to the TVA. And even though this is kind of what I was born, raised, well, not really, but told throughout the entire time I've been here that this is my purpose. And I just love the character of Mobius. He says in the episode, sometimes you get new information and you just have to go from there. And that's essentially what is happening here. And oh my goodness, was that not an incredible way to give this character even more depth than he had before. Essentially, it's never too late to change. And I think that's what Loki is learning. I think that's what Mobius is learning. All of our characters, they have that sort of arc. I love Loki and Sylvie's relationship in this episode. They're continuing to work on their character dynamic. And of course, the hug that we got between Loki and Mobius was like everything to me. It was so good. I just loved the interactions in this episode. And then we're kind of putting a foot into the door where we are headed. And where we are headed is a place that I think everybody is going to freak out about next week. We're just going to see whose door they're knocking on. You know what I just realized? I didn't turn my light on behind my head to illuminate myself. Hang on. There we go. That's a lot better. See, that would have been a lot cooler throughout the entire episode, but I didn't do it because I'm tired, because Loki comes out really early or late, according on where you are. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. What was your favorite moment of this episode? Was it Thanos Copter? Was it Throg? Was it learning kind of who or what this barrier is between our heroes and is it Kang? Is it actually Miss Minutes? I kind of speculated it could have been one of the Lokis, older Loki, but now it's looking like it's going to be someone that we haven't been introduced to yet. Is it Mephisto? Oh, God. It could be Mephisto. Thank you guys again for watching this video. If you enjoyed it and you like these Loki updates and you want to drop your thumbs up in support, that would be awesome. Appreciate you big time for watching. I'll see you soon.